just from working through the journey.
Come on,
ladies. Come on, ladies. Last week you had lost your share. Maybe stop sharing. Yes. Okay, any testimony? Oh, this is a small one. It's tiny one.
Can I nominate someone?
Okay. Because you know something
Yes.
about her. Okay. Give us your name and share with us what you do.
Okay, my name is Levato. Okay, I won top 10 Swiss SA innovative entrepreneurs.
Yay!
So this Saturday we'll be traveling to Switzerland to pitch our businesses to the embassy and University of Basel.
Yay! That's a big win.
It's a powerful tribe of sisterhood. When you share your successes, we're not the ones who are going to get jealous. We're actually getting ignited. Our more awaken and say, hey, you know what, I can do it as well. And that's what we're going to discover today and explore with amazing guest speakers. And we're really going to make our dreams work. And part of it is really having to showcase it to different people. And who knows where the journey is going to lead you, right? So on that note, I'm going to ask us to go through our mantra. So, the students can all stand up. So who's going to lead us today? Who's leading us? Okay. Good evening again. Emotionally is going to lead us. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
I am a dream girl.
I will put my education first and do all in my power to make sure that I study further, which will set me up for a better future, guided by higher education. I am a dream girl. I will love and respect myself by taking care of myself physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I am a dream girl. I will always present myself like a lady by exuding a confidence, walking with my head held high, showing other women respect, and refusing to participate in any demeaning behavior. I am a dream girl. I will speak with integrity, say only what I mean, avoid using the words to speak against myself or gossip about others. I will use the power of my word in the direction of truth and love. I am a dream girl. I will strive to take the time and effort to look fresh, fierce, and fabulous. I am a dream girl. I will embrace my womanhood and femininity wholeheartedly. I will accept that it is okay to be strong and sensitive, gentle and nurturing, beautiful and powerful. I am a dream girl. I will learn what it takes to live a sophisticated and cultured life. I am a dream girl. I will make every attempt to eat a balanced diet with plenty of whole grain, fruits and vegetables, and maintain a healthy body weight. I am a dream girl. I will pursue my goals and dreams unapologetically and without regard to others' opinion. I realize that I will never know just how fabulous I could become if I never get up, leave the house, and try. I am a dream girl. I will foster positive relationships with all those around me. I will expunge all toxic people from my life and enjoy the ones who love me for me. I am a dream girl. I will remain passionate about life, love hard, and have fun all while being that it girl. I am a dream girl. I will live in the faith that the whole world is on my side as long as I am true to the best that is in me.
Well done, ladies. So as dream girls, we are here to learn, we are here to discover, explore, and we have amazing guest speakers. So some of you can flew in from all across the seeds, y'all. Like, this is how special you are. You are having the caliber of guest speakers who are just incredible. And to introduce our main speaker, we're going to ask Noma. And Noma is our cultural lead, programs coordinator for the US Embassy. And you've met her before.
Yes.
So give her a round of Morning, ladies.
Morning.
How are you today?
Good, thank you.
I'm good. So we've got a guest speaker for you guys, as promised, Aisha Bowe. I'm going to read her bio and let her come up. I'm not going to speak too much because we're a bit behind in terms of time. So Aisha is the founder and CEO of STEM Board, a certified economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business specializing in engineering and development, IT services, program and project management, data management, ingestion, and analytics. At STEM Board, Bowe leads a workforce of engineers and programmers in addition to managing client relationships as well as execution of multi-million-dollar contracts with federal government and corporate clients. Previously, Aisha was an aerospace engineer at the NASA Ames Research Center, where she focused on miniaturized satellites. She can tell you what that means. And aircraft trajectory optimization. As CEO, Aisha leverages more than 10 years of experience to lead the growth and retention of STEM Board's portfolio of multi-million-dollar contracts for agencies within the Department of Defense. And under her leadership, Bowe's team of engineers, data analysts, and IT experts ensure agencies achieve their mission. Aisha holds a Master of Engineering degree in Space Systems Engineering from the University of Michigan. So Aisha is here as part of a speaker program. She's in Pretoria for 2 days. She's already been to Johannesburg and Bloemfontein. And what we've been doing with her basically is taking her around to different schools where she can encourage learners to continue with their STEM education and go into careers in the STEM field. And she's also visiting other AWE ladies in Soweto as well. And she is having panel discussions and all types of engagement with stakeholders in the STEM field.
Yay.
She's going to come up just now and do a nice talk for you ladies and inspire you.
Well, good morning, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. I couldn't be any happier to be here with you all in Pretoria, and especially with the AWE. I like to start my story here with a baby photo, because this for me is where it all begins, right? In this picture behind you, I'm on the floor with my father, and this is one of those photos where he has hair, which things have changed since then, but really what I'd like to cue in on is we were on the floor. You see, when I grew up, my father had immigrated from the Bahamas to the United States to pursue his education at the University of Michigan. And he met my mother, who came from New York, who also came to Michigan to pursue education at Eastern. And when you're younger, you don't realize that you don't have the same things that other students have. So for me, being on the floor was normal. I didn't know that I didn't have a bed, and I didn't know that we may not have been as financially well off as other students. My mother cleaned houses, and my father was a taxi driver at the time and would eventually have a moving company. From there, I can recall going into middle school. And now middle school, as many of you probably have experienced, you begin to feel different than those around you. I felt different because I was black. I felt different because we were poor. And I felt different because I didn't have the things that people in my classes had. I didn't have parents who were helping me with my homework in the way that their parents were, or were introducing me to role models or to potential mentors that at an early age could help me figure out what it was I wanted to do. And so when I ended up in high school, I wasn't focused. I wasn't a high-performing, high-achieving dream girl like you guys were. I didn't start my day with a wonderful mantra that I need to borrow about how I was going to respect myself and how I was going to eat right and live my life properly. I was simply trying to get through the day. I was unfocused. I did not do well in high school. That's right. Every single one of you who are in this room today are further ahead in life than where I was when I was in high school and even when I was in college. And so the way that this story unfolds is I end up going to see my guidance counselor, who's supposed to tell me that I can be whatever it is that I want to be when I grow up, right? And that I should pursue my dreams to the fullest. But instead, my guidance counselor offered me this piece of advice. She suggested that I consider studying a vocation because she did not believe that I was going to be much more than what she saw. And in fact, she further allowed my poor academic performance to define her advice and suggested that perhaps I pursue cosmetology, which is not a negative field. It's simply that was all that she could think was available to me. And so I didn't apply for college. And even worse, I didn't think that I would ever get into a college. I ended up at a place called Washtenaw, and that's a community college in the great state of Michigan, which is shaped kind of like my hand here. And at Washtenaw, I decided I was going to study business because that's what all the cool kids were doing. They were studying economics and they were going to be international business majors. And that's what I thought I was going to do, but I didn't really have any passion for economics or business. I was just afraid, and I knew what it was like to be broke, and I knew what it was like to struggle as I watched my parents try to take care of me and my sister. I didn't want that. And really, I didn't want to be in the position that my mother found herself in when she ended up divorced and having 2 kids and wasn't able to take care of them because she never graduated from college. But there I was in community college with my first semester, and I'm in economics. And I didn't do well because I didn't have the math foundation from high school, because I didn't apply myself and I didn't study, and I ended up getting a C grade in this course. Now you can imagine I felt really, really low. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I felt incredibly lost because I had barely graduated high school. I was now in community college, and I wasn't doing well. And I had just received a C in economics, and I was really afraid that if I did not, at minimum, graduate from this community college with something, that I was going to be doomed to a life of really hard labor and low wages. But here's the thing. I went home that night, and you guys ever have a really bad day and you're trying to avoid your parents and all they want to do is talk about that thing? And you can't figure out why. Like, why is it that you know that I don't want to talk to you right now? But you're determined, and it's always over food, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting there at dinner, and my dad is all up in my face, and he's like, how'd your class go? How are you doing? And I'm like, it didn't go well. I got a C, and I was angry. I was frustrated. I wanted to cry, but instead I just felt like screaming, right? Because here I am, and I don't know what I'm gonna do, and you're asking me about this, and all I wanna do is eat and go to bed. But there you have it, I got a C. And he looks at me and he says, well, I think you should take a math class. I'm like, what? Okay, what in the what? Why would you think that after what we just went through here, like I wasn't even done with my plate, right? That I should take a math class. And he's like, just take the class and I'll pay for it. And I'm like, whatever. You know, I'm not gonna tell you how to spend your money. Like, if you wanna throw your money away, that's on you. And so the next semester, I took the class, and it was algebra. It was pre-algebra. It wasn't even like the sophisticated fancy algebra. It was the plain algebra that I should have had and passed in high school. And I really wasn't thinking this was gonna go really great, and it was gonna be like the gateway to the rest of my life. No, I was just thinking I wanna get out of here and I wanna pass that class. And I don't mean pass by getting an A, like I was gonna get like maybe a C and keep going because that is all that I was used to doing and getting. And a funny thing happened, I ended up getting an A in this class. Now, I don't know if it was because I just didn't care and I allowed myself to just practice and study and do the things that I needed to do, but I got an A. Now, in that moment, I wasn't like, yes, this A is going to turn into me being something awesome. It was more, I'm just really happy that that A balances the C, and maybe I'll get out of here with like a B grade point average. Maybe. Let's hope, right? Let's hope. So because I got an A in pre-algebra, the suggestion was that I take algebra, right? Like, why stop with your A in pre-algebra? Like, keep going. And so I end up in the algebra class, and something kind of funny happens again. I get another A, and I'm just like, whatever. I'm going to keep taking these classes because if I can get out of here with a decent GPA, I might be able to finish this community college certificate. It wasn't until I was in Calculus 2 that things began to change because I recognized that calculus was something that people thought to be hard. And what was even stranger about this was my father, who was driving a taxi, if you recall, one night went to throw some trash out of the cab, and he discovered that there were calculus books in the trash. And he took them out, and the guy who had taught my first calculus class was the one who had authored those books. Because there was a student who, for whatever reason, determined that once they were done, they were going to trash this book. And my father, being the man that he is, can't conceive of why you would throw away knowledge, right? Yeah. For so many centuries, we have fought hard to learn to read and to write, and there was this math book, and so we took it. And he would complete the calculus problems in the cab at night. So I now am finding myself in Calc 2, and I kind of remember some of these things. I remember seeing the books, they were in the house. And a funny thing happened. I ended up getting an A on my second Calc 2 exam. Now this is after I had to take the class late because I was on vacation in New Orleans for a giant party called Mardi Gras. So you can only imagine that I wasn't exactly coming into this like, I'm ready for this exam. I was coming into this like, I'm ready for a nap, and that nap is on the other side of this exam. So we're gonna get it done, and then we're gonna go home, and we're gonna go to bed. But that A was like no other A before. Because my teacher sat there and he graded the paper. And he was kind of mad. Like, he was trying to be professional about it, so he wasn't like outwardly mad. But he just kind of was like, you know, I think you get 100. I was like, what? Like, you know, I would just get like, what? 100 on this exam. And so he hands me the paper, and he's like, I think you should just go home and think differently about your life. And for the first time, I actually did that. I went home and I held the paper and I said to myself, you know what? I've spent my high school and my college career thus far believing in every single negative stereotype that I encountered. I allowed what I thought was possible to be defined by what others told me. What if I just didn't do that? What if I made up what I wanted my life to be? And I thought it was crazy. I mean, I'm sitting on my bedroom floor, cross-legged, with a piece of paper about to make up a life. That sounds absurd, right? I mean, okay, so what are you gonna do, Aisha? And I was like, well, I think I'm okay with this math thing. So I'm gonna try to be an engineer because I hear that engineers are good at math. So boom, first thing on the list. And then my second thing was, well, if I'm gonna be an engineer, I'm gonna go to a good school, right? Because, well, why not? I mean, this is a make-believe list, so let's go to Michigan. Michigan is a top 10 engineering school in the nation and is affectionately referred to as a public Ivy, and Michigan Aerospace is better than top 10. So okay, let's do that. So So then this aerospace thing, I got the list of all the engineering majors that I could study. And I'm reading through the list and I'm like, all right, there's aerospace, that's number 1. It's got an A. There's electrical, there's civil, there's computer science. I don't want to do that. Nuclear sounds exciting, but I think I have to live with a bunch of boys on a submarine, so I don't think I'm going to do that. And mechanical, well, that wasn't really all that exciting, right? And chemical, so I'm going to go with aerospace. I mean, I always loved science fiction. I love the idea of like aliens and life forms and escapes, and this whole list was an escape, right? So let's put it on there. And after that, well, I'm going to go work for NASA, right? Because we've got aerospace engineering, we've got the University of Michigan, we've got science and science fiction, and a love for exploration, so NASA. Boom. Done. List was done. And I took this list and I put it on the back of my bedroom door, and every single day as I left my house on the way to my community college, I looked at the list and I literally like prayed and I kind of squeezed and I was like, okay, God, this would be so awesome if this happened. Like, I will do so good. I will be great at life. Just, I hope that this happens. And I'm not going to tell you that it was an easy road, because it wasn't, and there were many setbacks and failures along the way. But I started to realize that all of the things that I had failed in were actually to my advantage, because people were not going to outwork me, because where I came from was undoubtedly worse than where I was going. And so I started to learn that failure is success in progress. And so this picture I love, not because clearly I'm very happy, I'm relieved because I made it through Michigan, but because in the top of the screen there's a picture of myself, my mother, and my grandmother. And yeah, it's a family photo, but really what it represents is the progression of education and opportunity in my family. You see, my grandmother grew up in a time when African Americans were not educated in the same way that they educated Caucasians. She was born on a tobacco plantation in a place called Lamar in South Carolina, and she was a small person. And so in the wintertime, whenever it was cold, her mother refused to allow her to make the journey to school because she was afraid she would get sick. And during that time, the doctor may only come to the community once a month. And so if you got sick, it really could be fatal. So my grandmother, she made it through life with about an equivalency of a 7th grade education. When she grew up, she was determined that my mother was going to do better, and she did. My mom went to high school, but then she met that guy with the hair in the first photo. And, you know, no mistakes, right? But hey, I happened and life happened, and she didn't make it past high school. And there they are standing with me, who not only made it into college, made it out of a prestigious college, and graduated with an undergraduate degree in aerospace engineering and a master's in space systems engineering. When I graduated, I was one of 3 out of approximately 200 people who graduated. Us 3 were African Americans. And in my master's program, there were 30 of us, and 2 of us were African Americans who graduated in that year. So you can only imagine I'm used to being one of a few as opposed to one of many. And for us, this was a game changer. So now let's get back to this list. All right, so we've crossed off survive college, because college is like Survivor. You really do need to dig deep to get through it. If you're crying, if you're panicked, if you're distressed, that's okay. That's how it goes. That's normal. Congratulate yourself. You're exactly where you should be. Graduation happened, but then I needed to find a job, right? And that job maybe was NASA. I, along my college career, had found these luggage tags. You guys know what those are? You attach them to your suitcase if you travel. And the luggage tags on them said 3 words, not 4, 3. JPL, and JPL stands for Jet Propulsion Laboratory. They're the NASA facility that makes the rovers, and all the cool things that you see on Mars right now, as well as a lot of cool things. Let me not cut them short. I don't want to get any negative email from anybody from JPL. They do a lot of really awesome things, and all I wanted to do was be a JPL, like be a JP alien, right? I wanted to be where they were. Well, that's not exactly what happened, but God gives you what you need, not necessarily what you want sometimes, right? Well, the director of engineering from NASA Ames Research Center, which is in Silicon Valley, which is also very cool, came to my school and gave a lecture. You would have thought after all of this accomplishment, right, traditional accomplishment, that I would have had self-confidence and self-esteem, that maybe I had a mantra like you guys about dignity and respect, about really believing in who I was, but I didn't. Because self-confidence and self-esteem is something that doesn't happen overnight. You build it, you work with it, you reinforce it. And I hadn't learned that, so I didn't have it. All I had was this list and this idea that what I came from certainly was worse than where I was going. And that fear of not becoming someone was what was motivating me at this point in time. Well, during his lecture, he mentioned that there was a job, and this job was at NASA, and everyone should apply. And when I tell you that everybody applied, like people who weren't even in our school applied. I mean, everybody who heard about this lecture, whether it was mechanical or electrical, who could make it over, they applied. But I didn't. And at the time, I was the secretary of the Student Aerospace Association, and I had the opportunity to meet and engage him before the talk. And afterwards, I remember him kind of like questioning me, like, why didn't you apply? I don't see your resume. I've got a giant stack of resumes, and yours isn't here. I think you should apply. And I said, no, I'm not a 4.0 student. Why would you take me? And he just kind of looked at me really strangely, like, well, life isn't always about being perfect. Life is about learning how to recover from failure, how to work in teams, and most importantly, how to allow yourself to take risks, right? Apply and let them tell you no. So he went away, and I went home, and I remember talking to my parents like I was right and I knew everything, because I'm in college now, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, I said no. And my mom was like, what? Why? And I'm like, well, I'm not a perfect student, and it's in California, and California is so far away. I mean, Michigan's like here, and California is like here. There's no way. I don't know anybody. No, I'm not going. Funny thing about saying no, right? Yeah. So a couple weeks later, I get this email. And this email is from someone at the NASA facility, and apparently they're having a conference. And apparently they think I should go to this conference. No pressure, no strings attached. Go to the conference. Well, okay, I'll take a free trip to California to go to your conference about like moons and moon landing. I would love that. So I go out to this conference only to recognize that it was actually bait. And I had an amazing time. I had an amazing time, and I met so many people who were really exciting and doing interesting things, like trying to figure out if there was water on the moon, which, spoiler alert, there's water on the moon. If you didn't know that, look it up. There's water on a lot of places out there that we never could have conceived of before, but it was because people like you decided they were going to take a chance and build some thing that was going to go beyond Earth's orbit. So at the end of the week, I get to meet with the same gentleman who gave this talk, and he says to me, so what did you like about this week? And I said to him, there's an amazing scientist named John Hines. He was a graduate of the Tuskegee University, and I just think he's incredible. And he turned to me and he was like, done. You're gonna come here after you finish your class, and you're gonna work this summer. It was like direct, like how my dad would tell me. Like it wasn't a conversation, it was like a commandment. This is what you're gonna do. And I was like, okay, yes. And it took them 6 years to get rid of me. I was not going to willingly leave from that point on, I mean, look, from the first day when I got there and I had a badge and I was supposed to be there, I would wander around from building to building to building and ask people what they do. And it was probably obnoxious, but that was okay because I was new and I was going to use that to my advantage. I want to know what it is that you do and how you got here. And what I started to realize is that a lot of people in life pursue their passions and their dreams. But I wasn't doing that, right? I was just following this list. And I had a big problem because I had finished the things on the list. And I hadn't thought to create a new one, right? So now I'm at the bottom of the sheet of the paper, and I'm starting to learn more about people and life and how others view what's possible for them. And over the next 6 years, I learned so much. I had the opportunity to work on small spacecraft missions, which means satellites that are the size of like a shoebox. I went to Kodiak in Alaska to see the launch facility. I got a chance to go down to Houston, Texas, and see where astronauts get a chance to train in large pools that simulate microgravity. I had the opportunity to publish papers and work with some of the best people in their field. And this was all without really having a sense of purpose or passion and just a little bit of self-confidence. Well, after all this, I found myself about 4 years into my career sitting in my office, and I realized that I never felt like I actually belonged there. And a lot of that had to do with my self-esteem and my worldview, right? I did not allow myself to say ever that I was enough, that I deserved to be there, and that I had earned that right the same as everybody else that was in the room. I was discounting what it was that I had to offer, and as a result, I was working harder instead of disregarding others' negative opinions and simply doing whatever it was that I wanted to do because it was what I felt was right. And then I started to say to myself, well, okay, Aisha, if we went back to this list and we thought about what we would add to it, like what was it that I would do that would be the next step in my journey? Well, I wanted to do something where I could leverage my engineering expertise, but I also wanted to have the opportunity to be who I wish I had when I was younger. Because I did not see people who were like me. There were no NASA engineers that were rolling through my high school telling me to come hang out with them or giving me opportunities to go to the center and see what they were about. So how could I create a company that not only did technical work, but that gave back to communities that I wanted to empower? And that's where the idea for the business that I founded came from. Now, you guys are sitting in a room in Johannesburg looking at me like, yeah, okay, maybe, of course. It makes sense now, right? 6 years later, after founding that business, it makes sense. But when I tell you that my mother did not really talk to me for almost 2 months, it blew my mind how few people actually believed that I could do it, even the ones who were the closest to me after all of the traditional accomplishments. The idea that I, without really any financial means, would start a company and figure out how to grow that company into a self-sustaining business, now that seemed like Narnia to almost everybody that I talked to, including my mother, who could not fathom why I would leave my comfortable government job with the potential of retirement to work for myself. It was a really large sticking point. But it was an important inflection point because I started to realize that often people aren't going to see what's in you until you show them. And so you have to disregard anything that anyone tells you that is not what you dream or what you believe. Because 6 years ago, I would have been hard-pressed to say, not only is this company going to be successful, people are going to ask me to come to another country to talk about all of the things that I thought at the time were failures. And so let's talk about entrepreneurship and what that looks like now in South Africa. Do you guys know these two ladies behind me? Have you heard of them? If not, yes, Ahmed? Yes, some. Ahmed, show of hands. Some fingers, maybe. All right. Well, if you guys haven't heard of these ladies, I would suggest that you get a chance to look into them, because they're two entrepreneurs who are South African who are making waves. And I think what you find is that the idea of technology and entrepreneurship can seem so large at times, but really it can be pretty small. It could be connecting individuals with services that for whatever reason they don't have access to. And we're not talking like game-changing things here. I know individuals in the US that work for a company called Instacart. And Instacart has individuals who go to the grocery store, they shop for you, and they deliver it to your house. Now that's not exactly earth-shattering technical innovation, right? But they're on track to be a significant company, because do you know how many people use that? I use that. I love them. The idea that I don't have to go to the grocery store to get my groceries, love it. Best thing ever. There are people that will come and they will walk your dog. That's a business. There are people that will come and play with your dog. That's a business. There are so many opportunities to create businesses that don't necessarily require that you create something that's never been done before, that it's earth-shaking. And so I'm challenging you all to think differently about entrepreneurship and how you use it. There are businesses that you maybe run and operate for a short period of time, and they help you get to plan B. Like maybe you start a small business and you sell your jewelry on Etsy and you use that to pay your school fees. Or maybe you use that to start your own business, or maybe you use that to buy a home. There's so many ways that you can leverage entrepreneurship to get to where you want to go, that I want you guys to consider how technology is democratizing the world. And what do I mean by this? So let's go back to the example of like me and my little existence. When I started the company, I was like broke. I mean, I was a rookie engineer. I didn't have a lot of money. From the first set of slides, you guys heard that I don't come from a wealthy family. I didn't really have anybody to invest in my business, nor did I have investors who were looking to give me money, and so I needed to figure out how to do it. But I lucked up. I lucked up because the world is changing. It was not only preparing for an opportunity that made me successful, it was this idea that gone are the days when you need to have a physical brick and mortar business. That's not necessary. You can start a company and have a laptop and an internet connection, and you can change the world. Gone are the days when you have to have an administrative assistant or people who you hire for long periods of time within your organization. You can get online and buy only the services you need when you need them. You need a logo design, you find a freelancer, you need a website design, you get a template, maybe you code it yourself, right? The very first site that we had for the company, myself along with someone from the organization, we wrote it. We wrote the code. Yeah, I'm an aerospace engineer, but I can figure other things out too. We wrote the code for the website so that we could save money and didn't have to pay for that as a service. We are at a unique time because you now have access to all of these things that used to only be available to the wealthy and to those who had prestigious degrees and knew how to access them. That's gone. So I get these questions when I talk about entrepreneurship, right? Like rah, you talked about access, you talked about opportunity. So, but how do I get the funding? What is it that I need to do? Well, there are many ways to access finance, but let's kind of talk about like all of these kind of other things, right? So we've got capital as one, We have lack of skilled resources. That's a challenge that I get. We've got networking, globalization, and limitation when it comes to infrastructure. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to tell you guys about how all of these things actually work to your benefit. So one, access to finance. One of the things that I learned along the way was because I didn't know how to raise money, I learned how to make money. And that's very important because how are you going to deliver value to your investors? Like if someone just gives you a check for $1 million and you've never made $1 million before, how are you going to really guard that investment and get it to grow? It takes time to learn how to do those things. And the best thing you can do is start small. Just start and try to get somebody to pay you for a good or service. It will be much harder than you actually think it is. But that learning is important. It's very valuable because as you get more money and as you get more resources, you will know how to manage them and what to do with them. The second thing about the lack of skilled resources, well, I love this because I look at this both ways. Some people will tell me, well, I don't have people in my community who can help me that I can work with on a daily basis. Well, guess what? The world's a small place. Get on your phone, get on Instagram, get online, see who's doing what you want to be doing and whether or not they want to work with you. People are teleworking and collaborating from all over the world now. You're no longer restricted to just who you can see and touch in this library. Networking. Oh. How many of you have spoken to every single person in this room? Wah, wah, wah. Ladies. Now, I understand that you might be interested in talking to me, and that's great. I want to talk to you too. But if you do one thing today, I want you to exchange all of your contact information with each other because you don't know who the woman next to you is going to be and who she knows and how that can help you in life and vice versa. It's very important that you see every single person as an opportunity to build your network. Because there's some reason why the person next to you is here today, and it's probably the same reason why you are. Globalization. I love this one. This is just, the idea that you can sell your service or you can learn training from the best in the world by getting online at a low cost just blows my mind. If you want to learn how to code, get online, get on YouTube. Take a $30 class on Linda or wherever it is that they offer that. There are so many resources that you can take advantage of now that blow my mind. Can you guys imagine if you just got every single person in Pretoria to give you a penny? You would be rich. Imagine if you got a quarter of a penny from the majority of people in South Africa. I will be coming to your house for dinner. When you really start to think about scale and what can happen if you just take something small and put it out there, the reward can be enormous. And lastly, limited infrastructure. So this one I love because Africa as a continent is in an amazing growth phase. As the world strives to bring more connectivity and more bandwidth, this is where you insert yourself. This is where your business becomes the next billion-dollar company because there's so much opportunity here. Whether you're interested in technology-enabled businesses or you're simply interested in businesses that provide goods and services that address problems in your community, there's nothing but opportunity in Africa and particularly in South Africa on the horizon. Okay, so let's talk about money. We're gonna just cross some of these off real quick. So relatives or banks, I'm just gonna axe that one because, for many of us, that's not really an option, right? We're just getting started and we don't have rich, Uncle Moneybags or Scrooge McDuck to fund us, so it's not gonna happen. The second is grants. So I love grants because grants represent an opportunity to do a couple things. One, write proposals. By writing, it really helps you to solidify your business plan. It helps you to sharpen your pitch. And it gives you experience in selling and proposing what it is that you want to do to be successful to others. And if you win a grant, the best thing about it is you don't have to give the money back. Who doesn't love money that you don't have to give back? Right? Whoa, this particular funding source was instrumental for me and my organization is we sought federal contracts, which are somewhat analogous to grants in many ways, in that we were offering our engineering services, and in exchange they were paying us for them. So instead of going out and having to raise money, we made the money that we needed to fuel the business by working for it. And then we made smart decisions. We learned how to manage that. We invested in people and infrastructure as we needed it, until I got to the point where I ran the whole business on cash for 4 years. If you can run the business on cash, you can run the business without cash, right? Because you can demonstrate that you have the power to bring in capital, and people are then interested in how you can do that. Crowdfunding. How many of you here have heard about crowdfunding? A few? Okay. Definitely get online and look at this. This is the power of putting your idea out there for others to come and potentially support. There are many powerful platforms that are easily accessible through a quick Google search online. The other one is peer-to-peer loans. And so peer-to-peer loans, also known as social lending, is where individuals will get online and say, I like you, I like your idea, I'm going to invest in your idea, boom. So it's not a bank, it's not a grant, it's a loan, and it's a loan done by private individuals to support your idea. And those can come in all shapes and sizes. And so to close, I want to reinforce this idea about taking risk and sharing your dreams and putting yourself out there even though you don't know what to expect. At the first session of the tour, we were in Soweto at the Rosa Parks Library, and there was an entrepreneur there who said to me, I want to be a rabbit farmer. She didn't say that because she expected for me to do anything about it. She said that because that was her dream, and that's what she was passionate about. And I'm really excited to tell you that after that, I went home, and I was so just blown away by her conviction and her passion that I worked with U.S. Embassy staff to figure out how we were going to get her to her first rabbit training workshop, which she completed on Friday. And so that goes to show, and she's an AWE, listen, that's her name. You guys need to get into the networking thing, like I said before, and figure out how you can connect with her, because she is exactly what I hope you all will become, right? She's bold, she's unapologetic, and she's willing to live and tell people her dreams. And with that, I thank you so much for being a fantastic audience, and I hope to stay connected with you all. So let's be social. Thank you.
Yay.
Ladies, we'll be opening up to the floor for any questions. We've got about 10 minutes, so feel free to ask any questions that you have in your mind.
Any questions or comments?
All we need is one.
Okay, I don't have a question.
Go ahead.
I just saw a video when you were at Soweto. I was so jealous. I'm like, I hope she comes. So I'm so excited to see you. So I'm so excited that you came.
Well, I'm here, so thank you for having me. Oh, we got questions? Was that a question?
Oh, yes.
Yes, thank you.
I have a non-profitable organization.
Woo!
So it's actually very different from everyone that's in the room.
Okay.
I feel like, does it also include, you mentioned the crowdfunding and peer-to-peer funding. Can I also check it out for my NPO? Because I feel like it's completely different when it comes to people who are providing services.
Sure.
And somebody who is actually doing social entrepreneurship.
Got it. So I'm not as familiar with the NPO sort of like provisions in this country, but from the ones that exist in the United States, what I would say is that grants are most likely your best route, as well as engagement in working with existing NPOs. The other thing I would say is explore the idea of actually having something within your organization that people pay you for, like consulting and other potential revenue streams. One of the observations I had about nonprofits in the United States, especially that were in the realm of social benefit, is that they were victim to corporate priorities year over year. And so that's why with our company, I decided to make about 20% of the organization dedicated to education and outreach. I wanted to find a way to generate revenue and then use a portion of that revenue to support the nonprofit style activities without having to go out and raise that money and be dependent on it year over year.
Okay. So I should treat my NPO more like a corporate as well.
You should think about it. I would look around, I would take some time and do some research about successful nonprofits as well as nonprofits who have a revenue generating strategy or a strategy that allows them to consult or in some way offer a service that can help buoy them when they have downtimes. Yes?
Hi, sorry, I just wanted to add on to that. I was doing some research this week for nonprofits.
Yes.
Look into the National Gambling Board. They offer funding for nonprofits and the Gambling Board as well.
Okay.
They offer, they've got a very big budget for the nonprofits.
Don't get me excited.
See, thank you. But this is why you guys, you have to exchange.
We actually have a group
Okay, good.
for Pretoria, Johannesburg, and then we have a group that actually includes everyone that's participating in the project.
Good. And I hope that you get on there and you share with your group what it is that you want to do so they can offer you advice and guidance. Do we have questions from anyone else? Yes?
Actually, I haven't started anything about my business because doing further research about it, it requires a lot. The machinery on its own is very expensive. So I saw the options that you gave for sources of capital, and seeing any of them, I don't know where I'll even go about into getting those. And some lady, she's absent today, she once told me that when weighing options for grant, I should consider loan as a least because, for example, one of the machinery just cost 140,000 rand.
Sure.
Yeah. So if I am to ask for a loan, how much will I ask for, and how will I generate income again? Also,
To pay the
repaying that loan at the same time.
Sure. So do you have experience operating the machinery or working in the area that you want to start a business in?
Yes, but I still want to improve my skills.
Okay, got it. So in terms of manufacturing, there are groups or organizations that have machinery and they purchase that they can allow you to have time on, so you don't necessarily have to purchase your machinery. One example of this is I was at CUT earlier and they had advanced manufacturing, a whole entire facility, and it was designed for things that were not yet going to go into production. So wherever you can avoid buying machinery, I would. At most, I might lease it or raise money to buy time to use existing machinery. But I would also look into how can you get started without having to do that. When you're talking about things that require a lot of startup capital, that usually requires investment and a really firm business plan to move forward. Is there a smaller way that you can get started without using as much capital? Would be the question that I would have for you. So kind of think about.
I know someone at the IDC. They have funding for machinery, so I'll send you the number and the email.
Yes, sorry, in the back.
Okay, you mentioned that you always felt like you were not good enough or and all of that. And I also struggled with the same thing. So I just find myself working 10 times harder, looking at my surrounding and always thinking that, oh no, I don't belong here, I'm not doing enough. Let me work 10 times harder because everyone else is doing better or greater than me, you know. So I always find myself being so hard on myself that sometimes I just hide
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how to get
Stay
out of it, like
motivated.
the
Yeah.
habit, to use the habit. I don't know how to.
Well, I think one powerful way to counteract that is what I saw you all doing first thing this morning, which is a mantra and affirmations. You know, honestly, every day I get up and I say positive things to myself, and I watch my internal dialogue, and I watch how I think about the things that happen in my environment, because it really is, it's something that you have to work at, right? And one of the realizations that I came to after all of this is that there's nothing wrong with working hard, but enough people in life are going to doubt you. You shouldn't add to that, right?
Yeah.
So start by standing up in the morning and saying to yourself that you are enough and that you deserve all of the things and more that life is bringing to you, and know that that is true. And then go out there and continue to work hard against your goal, but never doubt yourself and never question your worth. I think we had another question over here, maybe. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have another question. How do you deal with, you said we should network, right?
Yes.
It's a must. And trying to collaborate as well. But then how do you deal with being in a space whereby you know what you want, but you're not getting the right connection?
Okay, well then find another one. I mean, so the way that I look at this, right, is when you're networking and you're looking for opportunities, you have to be happy for the opportunities that don't come to you as well, right? Because you want to be in a situation where you're giving as much as you're getting from whatever it is. And so I used to think, and like, well, wow, I wish that I had done well in high school and I would be so much further along. But in actuality, I'm happy that I didn't, because had I don't think that my life would have turned out the way that it did, right? So if you're in a space and you're not getting what you need from the space, it is on you, the entrepreneur, to continue to seek out spaces and seek out people where you might be able to find that. Now, that may not be in your neighborhood, it may not be in your country, it might be abroad, it might be in a virtual space. But there are so many organizations now, from accelerators to incubators to professional societies that are looking to cultivate entrepreneurs. Eventually, you're going to find the right one.
I don't think you exactly
Sure,
answering
go ahead.
My question. In your case, when you were trying to figure out what you wanted to do, you already had someone in your space to guide you, right? When you said when you wanted to go to the university, when they asked you if you should go to a different province and you're still thinking about it. And in my case, it's more like I have an idea, but the people that I want to be around with, I have no access to.
Right.
How do you deal with the frustration of trying to collaborate and network with such people and you're not getting any closer?
Yeah, so I didn't have guidance or mentorship. I didn't know anybody that started a business. And even now, I don't have somebody telling me how to run my business. So what I said to you, I will say to you again, which is you have to go and seek those things out. I did not know how to form a company, so I went online and I researched resources that could teach me how to do that. I did not know how to manage people, and so I really used the internet and my network and honestly professional societies and getting out there and just meeting people and not accepting no for an answer until I found the right people that could tell me how to do it. I wasn't in an area where I knew anyone. I was in California, which is thousands of miles from where I grew up, and so I didn't have any networks. Even now in Washington, D.C., there's a lot of things that I don't know, and I have to rely on getting out there and finding people in order to make that happen. And so I think that that is really important. It's this idea of, okay, I don't have the things that I need around me, but I am not going to be deterred. I'm going to continue to explore every single avenue until I can find the things that I need to be successful. So my first thing for you would be joining entrepreneurial groups, getting out and seeing who are the women who are in South Africa, who are in these spaces. You have the Dream Girls Academy. They know entrepreneurs, right? They might be able to connect you with someone who can provide you with that mentorship and guidance, but all of that really is going to come down to you. All of this, the company, the travel, is dependent on me getting up every single day and refusing to accept no for an answer.
On that note, Aisha, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We'll give you a small break so you can still connect and we'll take pictures if you need to. Do we have time for a group picture so that we can have chronicles for Pretoria as well so we can brag?
Yeah.